In the spring of 1992, as compact discs were revolutionizing the music industry and Tower Records ruled the retail landscape with iron-fisted pricing, a scrappy entrepreneur named David Chen had what he thought was a brilliant idea. Standing in a Blockbuster Video in suburban Phoenix, watching customers reluctantly shell out $18 for the latest Nirvana album, Chen envisioned a different kind of music store. One that would undercut the big chains by offering CDs at prices that actually made sense to regular people. Within 6 months, he had opened the first Music for Less location in a strip mall in Tempe, Arizona, promising customers they could finally afford to expand their music collections without taking out a second mortgage. The store's bright yellow and red signage boldly proclaimed, "Why pay more?" alongside cartoon musical notes that danced around promised savings of up to 40% off retail prices. Chen's timing seemed perfect. CD sales were exploding, people were replacing their vinyl and cassette collections, and customers were growing increasingly frustrated with the music industry's premium pricing. What Chen couldn't have predicted was that he was building his entire business model around a format that would become obsolete in an industry that was about to be turned completely upside down by a technology that would make his discount prices seem laughably expensive. Music 4. Less launched with a deceptively simple strategy that Chen had refined during his previous decade working in consumer electronics retail. The company would bypass traditional music distributors wherever possible, instead purchasing overstock directly from record labels, importing parallel market releases from international distributors, and buying up the inventories of failed record stores. This approach allowed Music for Less to offer new releases for $12 to $14 instead of the industry standard $18 to $20, while catalog titles could be found for as low as $7. Chen also made the controversial decision to stock heavily discounted promotional copies and cut-out releases, clearly marked as such, but often containing identical content to full-price versions. The stores themselves were designed for maximum efficiency rather than atmosphere, fluorescent lighting, minimal decor, and simple alphabetical organization that prioritized volume over browsing experience. By 1994, Music for Less had expanded to 12 locations across Arizona and New Mexico, generating over $8 million in annual revenue. The company's success caught the attention of regional investors, leading to a $2 million funding round that enabled rapid expansion into Texas, Nevada, and Southern California. Chen's stripped-down approach was working, with average transaction values of $32 and customer return rates exceeding 60%. The mid-1990s represented Music for Less's golden era, as the company rode the wave of CD adoption while major chains remained locked into premium pricing strategies. By 1996, Music for Less operated 47 stores across 8 southwestern states, with annual revenues approaching $35 million. The company had refined its buying strategies to include licensing deals for budget compilations, allowing them to offer greatest hits collections for major artists at prices below what competitors charged for individual albums. Music 4. Less also pioneered the practice of bundling slower-moving inventory with popular releases, offering customers package deals that increased average transaction sizes while clearing dead stock. The company's most successful innovation was its Frequent Buyer program, launched in 1995, which offered customers a free CD for every 10 purchases, a loyalty strategy that major chains wouldn't adopt for several more years. Chen had also begun experimenting with used CD sales, purchasing collections from customers at roughly $2 per disc and reselling them for $6 to $8, creating margins of up to 300% on the most popular titles. The used CD program proved so successful that by 1997, used sales represented nearly 30% of total revenue across all Music for Less locations. Industry publications took notice, with Billboard magazine featuring Chen on its cover in 1997 under the headline, "The Discount Revolutionary," praising his ability to make CD collecting affordable for middle-class families. However, even as Music for Less celebrated its apparent success, fundamental changes in technology and consumer behavior were already undermining the company's long-term prospects. The 1999 launch of Napster created the first widely accessible platform for free music downloads, initially attracting college students and tech-savvy consumers who quickly discovered they could obtain any song instantly without leaving their dorms. While Chen initially dismissed file sharing as a niche activity that would never appeal to mainstream consumers, internal sales data began showing troubling trends by late 2000. Sales of individual singles and compilation albums, high-margin products that had driven profitability, dropped by 15% between 2000 and 2001. More concerning was the demographic shift in customer base, as buyers under 25, previously the company's most valuable segment, began visiting stores less frequently. Music 4. Les attempted to respond by launching its own website in 2001, offering online ordering with in-store pickup, but the clunky interface and limited inventory selection failed to compete with emerging digital alternatives. The company also experimented with selling MP3 players and computer accessories, but these low-margin products required different supplier relationships and technical expertise that Music 4 Les lacked. By 2002, same-store sales had declined for 3 consecutive years, forcing the company to close its 5 least profitable locations and lay off nearly 60 employees. The period from 2002 to 2004 marked Music 4 Les's desperate attempt to remain relevant in a rapidly digitalizing music landscape. Chen made the decision to drastically expand the used CD program, hoping that ultra-low prices on second-hand merchandise could compete with free downloads by offering superior audio quality and immediate gratification. The company began advertising used CDs for as little as $3, often selling them at break-even or slight losses to drive foot traffic. Music 4. Les also partnered with local independent labels to offer exclusive releases and limited editions, betting that collectors and hardcore fans would still prefer physical media for special releases. The strategy showed initial promise, with several stores reporting increased traffic during major album releases, but the fundamental economics remained challenging. Digital downloads were not only free through file-sharing networks, but legal alternatives like iTunes, launched in 2003, offered individual songs for just 99 cents, making it cheaper to buy only the songs you wanted rather than an entire discounted album. Music 4. Les tried to counter by offering build-your-own compilation services, burning custom CDs from their inventory for customers, but this labor-intensive process proved unprofitable and legally complicated due to licensing restrictions. The company's financial situation became increasingly precarious as commercial rents continued to rise while revenue declined, forcing Music 4 Les to renegotiate leases at 32 of its remaining 38 locations. Chen's final gambit came in 2004 with the launch of Music 4 Les Digital, an ambitious but ultimately doomed attempt to compete directly with iTunes and other legal download services. The platform promised higher quality audio files than competitors and allowed customers to earn points toward physical merchandise, but technical problems plagued the service from launch. The selection was limited to deals Music 4 Les could negotiate independently, excluding major label artists that customers most wanted to download. More fundamentally, the company lacked the technological infrastructure and expertise to compete with Silicon Valley firms that were purpose-built for digital distribution. The digital platform never exceeded 3,000 registered users and generated less than $50,000 in revenue during its 18-month existence. Meanwhile, physical store sales continued their relentless decline as broadband internet access expanded and CD burning became commonplace. By early 2005, Music 4 Les was closing an average of 1 store per month, with remaining locations showing average monthly revenues of just $12,000, barely enough to cover rent and staffing costs. The company's relationships with suppliers deteriorated as payment delays mounted, forcing Music 4 Les to rely increasingly on whatever inventory they could obtain on consignment or through distressed asset purchases. The final chapter of Music 4 Les unfolded with brutal swiftness during 2005 and early 2006 as the combination of declining sales, mounting debt, and changing consumer preferences created an unsustainable situation. Amazon had emerged as a formidable competitor in physical CD sales, offering vast selection and competitive pricing with the convenience of home delivery, while Best Buy and Target began using music as loss leaders to drive traffic to higher-margin electronics. Chen made one last attempt to save the company by pivoting toward DVD sales and video game rentals, but these markets were already saturated with established competitors who had better supplier relationships and lower cost structures. Music 4 Less's remaining 18 stores were generating combined monthly revenues of less than $200,000 by the end of 2005, while fixed costs exceeded $300,000 per month. The company had accumulated over $1.2 million in unpaid supplier invoices and owed approximately $800,000 in back rent across multiple locations. Chen filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in February 2006, hoping to restructure the debt and emerge with a smaller chain focused on collector items and vinyl records. But potential buyers showed little interest in acquiring stores with declining foot traffic and uncertain futures. The bankruptcy court approved a liquidation plan in May 2006, with going out of business sales beginning that summer across all remaining locations. Music 4. Less officially closed its final store in October 2006, marking the end of a company that had generated over $150 million in cumulative revenue during its 14-year existence. The liquidation netted approximately 30 cents on the dollar for creditors, with most of the value coming from real estate leases that other retailers assumed rather than from inventory or business assets. Chen's personal guarantee on company debt left him financially ruined, and he eventually took a management position with a regional electronics chain before leaving retail entirely to become a business consultant. The rise and fall of Music 4 less perfectly encapsulated the music industry's transformation during the early digital age, a period when technological change moved faster than even nimble companies could adapt. While Chen's original insight about price-sensitive consumers was correct, his fundamental assumption that people would always prefer to own physical music media proved catastrophically wrong. The company's failure also highlighted how discount pricing became irrelevant when the alternative was not just cheaper, but completely free. In retrospect, Music 4 Less was fighting an unwinnable war, trying to compete on price against file-sharing networks that had eliminated price entirely from the equation. The lesson was clear. In the face of true technological disruption, being cheaper than your traditional competitors means nothing if technology has made your entire product category obsolete. The legacy of Music 4 Less serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of recognizing when entire industries are facing existential rather than cyclical challenges. Chen and his team made the classic mistake of assuming that their success in undercutting traditional competitors would translate into long-term sustainability, without recognizing that digital technology was creating an entirely new competitive landscape with fundamentally different rules. The company's experience demonstrates how businesses built around physical distribution can become vulnerable when digital alternatives emerge, especially when those alternatives offer not just convenience, but dramatically superior value propositions. Music 4. Less also illustrates the danger of building a business model around being the low-cost provider in a market where technology is driving the sustainable price toward zero. While the company briefly succeeded by making CD collecting more affordable, they never developed the capabilities needed to compete in a digital world where music consumption patterns were changing completely. Today, as streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music offer access to millions of songs for monthly fees equivalent to what Music 4 Less charged for a single album, the company's value proposition seems almost quaint. The stores that once promised customers, "Why pay more?" were ultimately asking them to pay anything at all for something they could obtain free, a question that an increasing number of consumers answered by simply walking away from physical music retail forever. The broader implications of Music 4 Less's failure extend far beyond the music retail industry, offering insights into how established businesses can respond when faced with digital disruption. The company's story demonstrates that competitive advantages based solely on operational efficiency or pricing can evaporate overnight when new technologies change the fundamental economics of an industry. Chen's initial success came from optimizing within the existing paradigm of physical music sales, but this optimization became irrelevant when the paradigm itself shifted toward digital distribution. Music 4. Less also shows how companies can fall into the trap of incremental innovation, improving websites, expanding used inventory, offering loyalty programs, when what the situation actually demands is fundamental business model transformation. The company's belated attempt to enter digital sales was too little, too late, hampered by limited resources and lack of technical expertise that prevented them from building a competitive platform. Perhaps most importantly, Music 4 Les illustrates how businesses that succeed by serving price-sensitive customers can become particularly vulnerable to technological changes that eliminate price as a factor entirely. When file sharing made music effectively free, no amount of operational efficiency or cost cutting could make Music 4 less competitive, leaving the company stranded in a market that was rapidly disappearing. The ultimate irony of Music 4 Less was that a company built on the promise of affordable music was destroyed by technology that made music more affordable than Chen had ever imagined possible. So affordable that it drove his entire industry toward extinction.